So my wife and I have tickets to go see some live music. We have tickets to see Wilco and Sleater Kinney. Today is August 1st, and that's going to be on August 10th, so I guess we're looking at just a little over a week back to live music. Knock on wood. I think there's always a concern with this Delta variant thing, but hey, full steam ahead, and I am hoping for the best, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some live music again. Which kind of brings me to today's video. It got me thinking, and I thought I would show and talk about three of my favorite live albums. I haven't really talked much about live albums on my channel before, so stay tuned and hope you enjoy this. There's a little bit of a Detroit theme today. Didn't wear the shirt on purpose, but one of the famous guys, early rockers from Detroit was Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels. So Mitch Ryder was putting together a new band in the early 70s by the name of Detroit, and recruited a guitar player named Steve Hunter. And that self-titled Detroit album featured an incredible cover of the Velvet Underground's Rock and Roll. Lou Reed got a copy of the album and was blown away by the arrangement that Steve Hunter had put together for the song. And one thing led to another. Lou Reed is ready to tour after the Berlin album, and first of all, the Berlin album included Steve Hunter and Dick Wagoner. These are two of the most famous guitarists in history, famous for their kind of dueling acrobatics. They went on, of course, and did a ton of work with Alice Cooper. When we think about dueling guitars, we think about Joe Walsh and Don Felder in the Eagles, and then another fantastic duo, we can't not mention KK Downing and Glenn Tipton from the best years of Judas Priest. In 1973, Lou Reed put out the album Berlin. It has Dick Wagoner and Steve Hunter on it. Of course, Lou invited Steve Hunter to join the band after hearing that Mitch Ryder Detroit album, and they were then getting ready to put together a tour. Lou decided he was going to take on this glam rock persona. At that point in time, he had the platinum bleach job on his hair. Of course, he was wearing all leather, and the album that resulted from that tour in 1973 was none other than Rock and Roll Animal, with that iconic cover of a tricked out Lou Reed. His hair was actually dark at that point in time. I have seen videos where he was kind of sporting platinum hair. This is an incredible album. It is hard to put in words. The initial, if you drop side one, you're going to hear Steve Hunter's original piece of music that was trying to find a home, and it turned out to be the intro to Sweet Jane on this album. And it worked perfectly because the way I understand it, the concerts would start, Hunter and the band would launch into this very baroque, at times proggy intro, and basically a full 3.5 minutes before Lou Reed would come on stage. And if you listen to this album, that's when the crowd kind of erupts. And you can tell, well, Lou must be walking out on stage. And finally, the band locks into, the opening chords and the riffs of Sweet Jane. There are 5 songs on this album, and it's perfect. Side 1 has got that Steve Hunter composed intro into Sweet Jane, and then there is a 10-minute and 15-second version of Heroin. The end of Heroin includes a bombastic guitar duel between Hunter and Wagner, of course, and it is just over the top, to the max, absolutely amazing. The 3 songs on side 2 are White Light, White Heat, Lady Day, which is the only song from the Berlin album, on this album anyway, and then of course the end with a 13-minute version of Rock and Roll. All kinds of histrionics by Wagner and Steve Hunter. This is just an incredible historical document in time. If you have not heard this or you don't have it, I would seek it out. Funnily enough, I've got the first pressing. It's on, the crappy Dynaflex. Dynaflex were the kind of lighter vinyl that was purported to be better quality vinyl compound, would sound better, it wouldn't warp, and it turns out most Dynaflex copies are suspect at best. But I've got an RCA orange label Dynaflex. It sounds fantastic. That is Lou Reed's Rock and Roll Animal, released in 1974. In 1975, Bob Seger had put out Beautiful Loser. This is an album that was recorded down at Muscle Shoals with a lot of the Muscle Shoals players, as well as his newish band at the time, the Silver Bullet Band, that he had put together the previous year in 1974. Seger was struggling to kind of break out of the Midwest market, and there was hopes among his management that he had kind of finally settled on the right group of players to kind of push his music to the top and break out of the Midwest market. And Beautiful Loser is a fantastic album. It did quite well for Seger. It still didn't manage to put him on the map nationally just yet. And he was working on, in 1975, another set of songs that would eventually become his breakout album, Night Moves, and it wasn't ready yet. And in the spring of 1976, knowing that album wasn't going to be ready for several months, he told his manager, Punch Andrews, hey, it's not going to be ready yet. And Punch Andrews, seeing the success of the Frampton Comes Alive album the previous year, had started recording shows professionally, like well-recorded shows, whenever Seger was out touring. And he toured a hell of a lot with the Silver Bullet Band. And those in the know knew that if there was a way to capture the magic of a Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band show, maybe the live album formula was the way to go. There's a famous story. Punch Andrews actually told Seger, I think at the end of 1975, early 1976, knowing that it was still going to be some time before Night Moves was ready, Punch Andrews was telling Seger, listen, I will go out and buy you a brand new Cadillac if we could release these tapes from 2 nights that they recorded at the famous Cobo Hall, downtown Detroit. Hometown prodigal son Bob Seger, the Silver Bullet Band, a 2-night stand in September at Cobo Hall. What we got from that, thankfully, was Live Bullet. There it is. This is just highly regarded, cited as one of the best live albums of all time. This came in a gatefold package with some nice shots of the band. I have, of course, this was on Capitol, and I am lucky to have a Wally Trowgett cut of the album. It's got the Wally in the dead wax. Check out my Wally Trowgett video on some fantastic masterings and pressings by Wally if you haven't seen that yet. So let's talk about Live Bullet. And before we do that, we gotta mention the stars of the show on this album. They're definitely Seger, his workmanlike, his enthusiasm, his incredible voice. Seger is basically meat and potatoes, Midwestern rock and roll, and he took different parts of the Midwest scene. He's got some Chicago blues in him. He definitely has Detroit Motown. There's a bit of a Reno rock also, but that is just Seger is R&B as well. Seger is well attuned with. In addition to Bob Seger, the other stars of this particular album, as far as I'm concerned, lead guitarist for the Silver Bullet Band at that point in time was Drew Abbott. He was a founding member, and he went all the way up to the '83 album, The Distance, and I think he checked out after that. The other person who sounds amazing on this and kind of has a very, very prominent role is keyboardist, organ, Robin Robbins. If you want to hear the best of Robin Robbins, listen to Traveling Man, Into Beautiful Loser, and you'll see what we're talking about. Back to Drew Abbott. He is just a monster on guitar. He shines on Nutbush City Limits, the opening track. He's a monster guitar player. Sounds amazing. Of course, we cannot forget Alto Reed with those iconic sax solos. Turn the Page comes to mind. And then finally, the audience. So at one point in time, I think it's during Heavy Music, Seger kind of lets the crowd in on a secret. Hey, we've got the mobile truck outside. And this was during a breakdown during Heavy Music where he's asking the crowd to sing along. Of course, Heavy Music dates back to the late 60s for Seger and The Herd, one of his early hits in Detroit, preceded by Ramblin' Gamblin' Man, which was Bob Seger and The System. Anyway, back to the crowd. So Seger, drops a secret. Hey, we've got the trucks outside, and you just may be on the feature album. And the crowd, of course, goes wild. The opening few seconds of this album, we've got the PA guy at Cobo Hall saying, you wanted the best. Here he is. This is Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band live. Crowd goes wild. So a lot of things kind of fell in place for this album. It showcased Seger's great song selection. That cover of Nutbush City Limit, the Tina Turner song, is absolutely amazing live. And this album is also kind of one of those historical set pieces in time. It's been recently reissued, I understand. I haven't heard that yet. I've got an original pressing. I'm very happy with it. Go get it if you haven't heard it. When we talk about the Talking Heads and the Talking Heads live, most people gravitate towards Stop Making Sense. And you won't find a huge argument for me. I will say I love the film, and I think it's more effective watching the staging of that show and the way the show kind of plays out. one by one, they kind of build and build and build, and different players come out. Different instruments are wheeled out on stage. It's an amazing concert film directed by the great Jonathan Demme. But my favorite live album from the Talking Heads is the one that came out in '82, and that is, the name of this band is Talking Heads. With the name of this band is Talking Heads, we get a 4-year historical document. So we get tours from 1977 to 1978 with the original 4-piece, and then we get the greatly expanded band during the live 1980-81 touring period. Of course, this includes the great Adrian Below on acrobatic lead guitar, the fantastic Bernie Worrell, etc., etc. It's a double album, of course. Unfortunately, not a gatefold. Always kind of disappointing, in my opinion, where you've got a really nice 2-record set and you've got to squeeze them into that single piece of cardboard. Each of the inner sleeves is fantastic. It's got a full list of credits, who played what during what song, the different venues as far as the recordings that took place. Some great photography as well from the tours. This is the second disc with the later tours and the expanded band. When we talk about the later years and later tours on the second disc of the album, my favorite 2 tracks are Ezimbra and Drugs. That's on side 3, and it just really showcases the wizard that Adrian Belew is. It's just fantastic what he is doing to kind of complement the song. And although some of these guitar figures sound like they're out of left field, they just kind of make sense as these songs go along. I have to say, though, that my favorite disc is actually disc 1, where it kind of just showcases the incredible economy of the original 4-piece band. Chris France was a fantastic, economic, not flashy drummer. Perfect snare fills here and there. And Tina Weymouth, as far as I'm concerned, is a very, very sufficient bass player. Of course, you got Jerry Harrison, who adds a lot of color where needed on lead guitar and keyboards. And of course, Byrne, there's not much we can say about him. Just incredible vision, songwriting, and presentation as well. Probably one of my favorite moments on the album is actually side 1, album 1, song 1, New Feeling, David Byrne. The first thing we hear is, the name of the song is New Feeling, and that's what it's about. And Byrne is a famously deadpan, just the facts, ma'am, not very verbose, let's put it that way. And that's also a play on the actual title of this live set. The name of this band is Talking Heads. Byrne would famously open up those early concerts with those words. I also think the first disc sounds a little more crisp. There's a bigger sound stage. I think the second disc sounds a little bit busy as far as the mix is concerned, not as crisp. And I do like the first disc better as far as the sound is concerned as well. That is, the name of this band is Talking Heads. It's a double LP. Go check it out. I think it has a lot more to offer than Stop Making Sense. That's a wrap today. Those are just 3 live albums that I think sound fantastic on vinyl. If you haven't heard those before, maybe do a quick preview on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you stream your music, and maybe start looking for those, on your future digs. Thanks for watching today, and I will be back very soon. I've got several other things I'm working on at the moment, so please stay tuned. Take care.